The alarm lights turned red across the ISS Aegis, Earth's last orbital defense ship, as something massive came out of the dark beyond Jupiter fast, silent, and unlike anything their sensors had seen before. Commander Elias Voss stood on the command deck, watching the alien vessel close in. It was shaped like a spearhead, sleek and pulsing with an eerie green light, and it didn't answer any hails. Earth's fleet scrambled to respond, but Voss knew they were seconds away from something worse than a fight. They were about to be boarded. The alien ship rammed straight into the outer defense ring, breaking through like it was made of paper. Voss and his elite strike team suited up, launched across open space, and entered the alien vessel through a breach in its hull. Inside, it was like stepping into a metal jungle, twisting corridors, strange symbols glowing along the walls, and no sound except their own breathing. They moved quietly, weapons ready, expecting traps. What they didn't expect was what waited for them near the core. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, armored in a black biosuit that shimmered like oil, her four-fingered hands gripping a spear that crackled with blue energy. Her face was half covered, but her glowing yellow eyes were fixed on them with cold fury. Without a word, she charged. Voss dodged left. 2 of his men opened fire, but she moved like wind silent, deadly, slicing through their formation. One of his team went down screaming, armor sparking. Voss met her blade with his own plasma saber, and the two clashed in a blur of steel and sparks. She was strong, too strong, and every strike nearly broke his guard, but she was also angry, reckless. He studied her movements, waiting for a pattern, a weakness. When she overcommitted to a heavy swing, Voss sidestepped, spun, and slammed his elbow into her back. She stumbled, just for a second, but it was enough. He disarmed her with one sharp twist, kicked her weapon down the hall, and leveled his sidearm at her chest. But instead of attacking again, the warrior dropped to one knee. Her chest heaved with exhaustion, a thin line of green blood dripping from a crack in her helmet. She looked up at him, not with fear, but with something else. Something heavy. "I'll serve you," she said in clear English, her voice sharp but steady. "Just don't kill me." Voss didn't lower his weapon. His team was down to half strength. The alien ship could still be dangerous. But there was something about her. This wasn't surrender out of fear. This was survival. Intelligence. Maybe even strategy. He stared at her for a long moment, then gave the order, "Secure her. Take her alive." As his team moved in, the alien warrior didn't resist. She sat still, watching him with those unblinking golden eyes, as if she had already calculated 10 different futures, and this was the one she chose. Somewhere deep in the ship, another power surge flickered. The battle outside still raged. But Voss knew this mission had changed. The war wasn't just about ships and weapons anymore. It had become personal. And he had no idea what the galaxy would look like by the time it ended. Commander Elias Voss watched as the alien warrior was locked inside a reinforced cell on the lower deck of the Aegis. She sat calmly, almost like she was waiting for something. Her armor had been removed, revealing a muscular frame covered in faint scars and strange markings that glowed dimly under the light. Her name, translated through the ship's AI, was Kael'thera Aexithari Spearborn, an elite class of warriors bred for war and obedience. Voss had dealt with aliens before, but never one who surrendered and then spoke fluent English. That alone made her dangerous. Over the next few days, she answered every question he asked, not with hesitation, but with strange honesty. She told him her empire was dying from within civil war, rebellion. The mission she had been sent on was never meant to succeed. Her superiors used her as a distraction while they pulled back into deep space to rebuild. She was a sacrifice, and she knew it. Yet she had fought anyway, not for her leaders, but for the sake of her name, her code. Voss wasn't sure if it was pride or desperation that made her speak so openly, but he sensed something else, a curiosity about humans, a quiet study of everything they did. Meanwhile, his own crew didn't trust her. They whispered about her in the halls. Some said they should space her, others believed she was a spy. But then came the shock when the engineering team went to inspect the alien vessels still drifting nearby, a dormant defense trap activated. The ship's core began to heat, primed to explode. The humans had minutes. Calthyra, hearing the alert, demanded to be released. She claimed she knew how to disable the failsafe. Voss hesitated. He could send someone else, but they'd die. He took the risk. With 2 guards watching her every move, she boarded the alien ship again and moved straight to the central node, bypassing the deadly pulse lines with ease. She spoke a command in her native tongue and plunged her hand into a control port, absorbing a shock that sent her to her knees. But it worked. The core cooled. The trap was disabled. She collapsed, breathing heavily, armor scorched. They carried her back in silence. Voss didn't say thank you. He didn't have to. She had earned a sliver of trust. Later, as the 2 of them sat in a dim observation room overlooking the stars, she asked softly, "Do your kind always spare the enemy?" Voss didn't answer immediately. He was thinking about the men they had lost, the risks he had taken, and the weight of every decision. "No," he said finally. "Only the ones who deserve it." Calthyra looked out into space with a faraway gaze. For the first time, there was no tension in her shoulders. But neither of them noticed the tiny signal that blinked from her old armor still stored in the cargo bay. Something or someone had just received her location. And the silence of space would not last long. The message hidden in Calthyra's armor had reached its destination. Within days, long-range scanners picked up movement near Neptune. An old Xathari war beacon had activated, signaling a fleet gathering in the cold dark beyond the solar system. Earth's Defense Command called an emergency meeting, and Commander Elias Voss found himself in the middle of a storm. Some leaders accused him of bringing the threat closer by keeping Calthyra alive. Others demanded she be interrogated again, harder this time, or even executed as a precaution. But Voss stood firm. He believed she wasn't part of the betrayal. More importantly, she had saved human lives. Calthyra didn't deny the signal came from her armor, but she looked Voss in the eye and said, "I warned you. They don't leave their own behind. But they won't find me loyal anymore." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. With the alien fleet moving fast, Earth needed every advantage, and Voss suggested something that shocked the Council. Calthyra would lead a small team to one of the Xathari forward outposts hidden near Saturn. She knew the layout, the language, the traps. Some called it madness, others called it treason, but in the end, desperation won. Voss personally selected the team, 5 human soldiers and 1 alien warrior, who still wore the scars of betrayal. From the moment they entered the abandoned Xathari base, tensions ran high. The humans didn't trust her, barely spoke to her. She didn't ask for kindness, only cooperation. The station was a maze of sharp turns and silent corridors, the walls alive with faint green pulses. As they moved deeper, Calthyra warned them of pressure plates and shadow drones, showing how to bypass them with signs etched in the walls codes only a spearborn would know. But the base wasn't empty. The moment they reached the control core, the lights flared, and the Xathari strike team attacked. It was an ambush. Plasma fire lit up the hall. The humans held their ground, but they were outnumbered. One soldier panicked and ran right into a trap. Calthyra saw it first and threw herself forward, tackling him just before the shockwave hit. Her armor burned, skin seared, but she kept fighting. In the end, they won, but just barely. As the smoke cleared, the humans saw her kneeling, panting, her spear broken in half. She had taken the hit meant for one of them. The silence was different now. No more tension. Only realization. Voss helped her to her feet, nodding once. She didn't smile, but there was something softer in her eyes. "You still think I'm your enemy?" she asked. The soldier she saved, Private Lane, stepped forward and, without a word, offered her a field pack for her wounds. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. On the flight back to Earth, Voss looked at the encrypted data they had pulled from the outpost. It confirmed their worst fear. The fleet wasn't just coming. It was bringing something new, something powerful. And at its head was a name, Calthyra, whispered with quiet rage, General Varnock, her old mentor. The one who had left her to die. The trial wasn't over. The fire had only just begun. The council chamber was silent as Kael'Thira stood before the United Earth Assembly, her body still wrapped in burns from the Saturn mission, her armor scorched, her spear broken and strapped to her back like a reminder of her past. Lights flickered overhead, holoscreens showing the incoming Xathari fleet now approaching Mars orbit. The council demanded answers. Why was the fleet so large? What was their new weapon, and why should they trust the one alien who used to be their enemy? Commander Elias Voss stood beside her, his face calm but sharp. He told them the truth. Kael'Thira had risked her life to save Earth soldiers, had fought against her own kind, and had delivered key intelligence that revealed the Xathari's plan. But when the council still hesitated, Kael'Thira stepped forward, her voice steady. She spoke of General Varnock, the ruthless warlord who had trained her, then abandoned her, and now led the fleet as its supreme commander. "He believes I am dead," she said. "Let me prove him wrong." Her plan was bold, too bold, some said. She would use the stolen codes from the outpost to pilot the captured alien warship straight into Varnock's flagship, pretending to return as a loyal soldier. Once aboard, she would sabotage the fleet's command link from inside. It was risky, almost suicide, but it was their best shot. Voss volunteered to lead the team with her. The warship launched at midnight, silent and dark, drifting among the stars like a forgotten ghost. Kael'Thira sat in the pilot's seat, wearing her old spear-borne armor again, this time with human tech grafted into it, a symbol of two worlds working together. The enemy didn't fire. Varnock's ship pulled them in. He stood there in the docking bay, massive and cold, eyes gleaming with victory. "You live," he said, voice like metal scraping. "Barely," Kael'Thira answered, kneeling once again. But this time, it was a trap. Voss and the team burst from hidden compartments, weapons raised. Chaos erupted. Kael'Thira ran straight for Varnock, while Voss led the strike toward the control room. The corridors burned with laser fire, Xathari guards falling one by one. Kael'Thira reached her old mentor, and the two clashed in a brutal dual spear versus blade, strength versus speed. The room shook as their weapons collided. He taunted her, called her a traitor, said no human would ever accept her. But she fought not for their acceptance, she fought for the truth. For the choice he had stolen from her. For the home she was beginning to find. Finally, with a cry of fury, she disarmed him and slammed him to the floor. "I kneel to no tyrant," she said. Then she activated the core override, unlocking the fleet's mainframe for Earth's forces. Outside, human ships waiting behind the moon sprang into action, launching a surprise assault. The Xathari fleet, confused and split, began to fall apart. Varnock roared with rage, but Kael'Thira turned her back on him and walked away as the ship began to collapse. Voss met her in the hangar as they escaped just before the ship exploded behind them. Earth's skies lit up with fire, but it was the fire of victory. And though the battle had ended, Kael'Thira knew the war inside her had only just begun between who she was and who she was becoming. The war was over, but Earth was not the same. The skies above the planets still showed the scars of battle-burned-out satellites, drifting debris, and the remains of ships, both human and Xathari, locked in silent orbits. Commander Elias Voss returned as a hero, but he didn't stand alone. At his side was Kael'Thira, the alien warrior who had once stormed into their world with a weapon raised and had now helped save it with that same weapon broken. The United Earth Council held a final ceremony beneath the newly rebuilt defense tower, and leaders from every continent, every colony, gathered to witness it. Kael'Thira stood in the center of the platform, her head held high, her old spear reforged, not for battle, but as a symbol of peace. Her armor had changed too, no longer the cold black of war, but a mix of Xathari steel and human alloy, marked with both banners. The Council offered her something no alien had ever received before: full Earth citizenship and a role in the new Defense Alliance. But there was one condition: she would never again fight against humanity. She looked at the crowd, at the soldiers who once feared her and now saluted her. Then she turned to Voss, who had believed in her when no one else would. Slowly, Kael'Thira knelt, not in surrender, not in shame, but in choice. I once knelt to beg for life, she said, her voice calm, clear. Today, I kneel to honor it. I give you my oath, not as a warrior of the Exithari, but as a protector of this world I almost destroyed. The crowd stood in silence, then erupted in applause. Voss stepped forward and placed a polished human emblem on her shoulder, a symbol of unity. She stood tall once more, not as a prisoner or a weapon, but as a bridge between two species. That night, she stood alone on the edge of the tower, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, other enemies might rise. Other battles might come. But Kael'thera was ready. She was no longer fighting to survive. She was fighting for something far stronger belonging. And Earth, once her enemy, had become her home.